Norma Godfrey. Right, ma'am? Is it Miss or Mrs. Godfrey?
Mrs.
Mrs. Godfrey. And where are you from?
Anchorage, Alaska.
Anchorage, Alaska. That's true, and I might say that Mrs. Godfrey deserves a medal. She's been in flight since Friday night, haven't you?
Friday noon.
Friday noon, getting here because of all the bad weather. We're very happy that you made it. May I present our panel, Mrs. Godfrey?
Thank you.
Now, will you join me over here? Do you know how we keep score, Mrs. Godfrey?
Yes.
All right, fine. Then we'll let the audience in the theater and the audience at home know exactly what your line is. All right, panel. Mrs. Godfrey is self-employed, deals in a service, and let's begin the general questioning with Bennett Cerf.
Mrs. Godfrey, I guess we can rule out any relationship to Arthur Godfrey, can we not?
Yes.
Does the work that you do, the service you perform, is that done up in Alaska?
Yes, it is.
Is it work that would be peculiar to Alaska, or might you be able to perform the same work anywhere in the United States?
It would be very difficult to answer that yes or no, Bennett. You want to ask if it's peculiar to Alaska?
Is it work that would be done more often in Alaska than in any part of the states proper?
No.
No. That's one down and 9 to go, Miss Francis.
Is this a service that anyone on the panel might use?
I would think so, yes.
Sometimes.
Would we come to you for the service?
Usually.
Do you work indoors?
Usually.
Do you have an office?
Yes.
Is there any paperwork connected with what you do?
Yes.
But I would say here, Arlene, that this is answered, I think, in the substantive term that there's paperwork with almost every occupation now, of one kind or another.
Thank you, John.
Perfectly all right, darling.
Is this a job that takes place in front of any other people? Do other people watch you when you work?
Usually not.
That's 2 down and 8 to go, Mr. Boone.
Now, John, we have enough trouble in this business without you starting that.
I'm sorry, Richard.
We've known each other a long time. Miss Godfrey, do you employ other people in your business? Do the other people work outside of the place where you work?
I would say no to that, wouldn't you?
No. Yeah.
That's very good. That's 3 down and 7 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Don't always listen to him.
Mrs. Godfrey, excuse me, Bennett. Mrs. Godfrey, does your work in any way, is it in any way connected with science or any branch of science?
Yes.
Would the science have something to do with the earth or something that might be found in it?
No.
No. 4 down and 6 to go, Mr. Cerf.
Mrs. Godfrey, does the work that you and your assistants do have anything to do with improving the health or appearance of the people for whom you are working?
Yes.
Would it be more the appearance than their health?
Usually not.
That's 5 down and 5 to go, Miss Francis.
Mrs. Godfrey, do you have to have any training for your job?
Yes.
Would you have a title other than Mrs. Godfrey?
Yes.
Would you be considered Dr. Godfrey?
Yes.
Swell. Do you touch the people that come in contact with you?
Yes.
Do you touch them from the waist up?
Sometimes, or usually.
By that, do you mean that you could also, under certain circumstances, touch them from the waist down?
Yes.
Very good, Miss Francis.
It's not so good for me, but it's glorious for Dr. Godfrey. Is my job to find out the kind of medicine that Dr. Godfrey received her degree in? Is that it? Would Dr. Godfrey ever be associated with an X-ray machine?
Yes.
Well, is Dr. Godfrey a general practitioner in Alaska?
No.
Or rather than a specialist?
Is not a general practitioner.
I said rather than a specialist. Don't you be mean to me, John. It's the new year.
6 down and 4 to go, Mr. Moon.
Dr. Godfrey, is your practice principally in a clinic or hospital
Yes.
rather than in a private office? Is your practice, does it specialize in one group of people as opposed to another?
No.
No.
That makes it 7 down and 3 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
You work in a hospital.
No.
That makes it 8 down and 2 to go, Mr. Stern.
Mrs. Godfrey, since you do sometimes touch people below the waist, according to you, can we rule out dentistry?
Yes. I would like to say, Bennett, that is the deepest root canal work I ever heard of.
The worst bite in history.
I have known dentists who do quite a bit of wandering. Mrs. Godfrey, if you use the X-ray machines and do not practice dentistry, do you then examine bone structures of people?
Yes.
Well, is that your particular job of...
In a way, it's important.
It's a part of it.
Well, I don't know what you call this.
Well, I'm going to clip the towel over.
Surgeon?
She's self-employed.
Anesthetist?
Not an anesthetist.
They're all over. You're
Head
missing
of a clinic.
the one that would come most quickly to your tongue.
An X-ray specialist.
No.
Neurologist.
Chiropractor.
I didn't know they used X-ray machines. I didn't know chiropractors used X-ray machines.
Oh, they
yeah?
use X-rays to determine, particularly since they're interested fundamentally and particularly in what's happening in cartilage and bone. They're very interested in those pictures, those wonderful pictures. You studied in this country, even though you're practicing in Anchorage, aren't you?
Yes.
Where'd you study?
I studied at the Palmer College of Chiropractic, which is in Davenport, Iowa.
Huh? How long do you have to study?
That is a 4-year course, and then there is additional training involved, 6 years total.
6 years old. The only woman chiropractor in Alaska, lucky Alaska, that new state of ours. Thank you very much, Doctor, for being with us.